morning, everyone. And for those of you who just joined, we are here to talk about hosting and managing live events in Yammer. Woo! Thank you.
How are we doing this morning?
All right, so first of all, my name is Kasia. I am a product manager at Yammer. I work on live events, obviously, and
my name is Mike Holste. I'm a product marketing manager for Yammer and employee engagement.
Yeah. So before we get started, who here has hosted a live event in Yammer? Raise your hand. Oh, all right. A round of applause for these guys here.
So a couple of them work with us.
Yeah, a few of them work with us, so that doesn't really count. Now, how many of you have events that happen on a regular basis within your organization? Raise your hands. All right, almost everybody. Great. So you're definitely in the right place. All right, so we're going to be walking you through the end-to-end flow from a comms perspective on really how to create, moderate, pull an event in Yammer end-to-end, so that way you're driving optimal employee engagement.
For sure. And to frame up this presentation, at first we're going to discuss a little bit about Yammer and our mission with Yammer, why we're building out these features, talk a little bit about our leadership engagement story, and then get into the nuts and bolts of creating, managing, hosting a live event, and sharing some best practices and tips and tricks. So first, this is Yammers Mission. We're really focused on 3 pillars right now to drive engagement and help you get more out of your Yammer communities. The first of this is Yammer engagement. And this is how leaders communicate with their workforce and how they share their vision, align on new initiatives, motivate their employees, address concerns, and so forth. And also how they take the pulse and have ideas and feedback bubble back up to them, how they stay engaged. The second pillar is corporate communications, and this is what many of you probably do on the day-to-day, and that's sharing critical messaging, amplifying news, helping with initiatives, connecting people, and overall ensuring that the organization has the information they need at the right time, at the right place, in the right hands. And of course, being Yammer, the lifeblood of our product is communities. So we want to continue driving to build the features and capabilities that groups need and that users need in order to have higher engagement, be able to share information, and so forth. And all of this, of course, is built on Microsoft 365. So it's backed by the security and trust that you expect and that you guys need. And of course, has the product integration with our other services like Microsoft Teams, SharePoint, Planner, Project, and so forth.
All right, so live events are really a feature set that help leaders engage with their employees. So what really makes live events special? 1, live events help build authenticity and trust between leadership and their teams. 2, they're an amazing way to share information in a very open and transparent manner. We've seen that happening at Microsoft. We regularly host live events with our leadership, and it really kind of opens up that conversation. And then finally, it really helps engage employees in the company mission. So especially for companies that are slightly larger, sharing out that mission, getting alignment across the board from different offices that may not always be co-located with your leadership, live events are an amazing way to facilitate that connection. So what is a live event in Yammer? We keep talking about them. You're all here excited about them. But really, what are they? And live events are really a tool for leadership to connect with their people. And there are a couple of key features that come with live events. So first of all, you have the option to broadcast your live event. And that live and on-demand video helps connect employees across the board. So for folks who are not in the main HQ office, maybe in different time zones, live events offer a really easy way to engage with their leadership, both in real time and on demand. Live events also support 10,000 attendees, live events in Yammer. And this is quite amazing because this means that all of your employees can participate. They're convenient, they're inclusive, so regardless of the time zone that you're in, you can either participate remotely in real time or on demand. They facilitate real-time discussion and interaction. So something we're going to talk about later is, how can you drive engagement? And that discussion piece is really core. So you all know the Yammer feed, I hope, everybody in this room. And live events kind of weave that feed together with the amazing broadcast. And then finally, Live events also provide you with analytics that you can use to then drive your strategy moving forward. So depending on the type of engagement that you see, the types of questions that you see be surfaced, you can use that to action. And that's really, really powerful. And then finally, they're available with the Yammer that you know and love, or at least we love, right? And hopefully you love as well. And so they're accessible to you today.
So what I love about the benefits of live events and what I love about this slide in general that you guys will have access to after this presentation and this session is being recorded, there are a ton of benefits. It's easy to convince leadership of hosting a live event because they are low cost. You don't need additional services. You don't need a far off destination if your organization is already using and engaging in Yammer. It's a familiar UI for users, and you're already investing in this platform as a destination. It's also low cost in terms of travel budget. If you host a live event, your far off employees don't need to fly into an office. You don't need hotel costs and so forth. They're scalable, of course. We showed that they're accessible to up to 10,000 people, but that's and beyond. So many more can watch the event after they can watch the recording, they can access it and still engage and ask questions. They're inclusive, meaning across time zones, but also due to auto-transcription and Yammer translation, they're accessible for more than just the immediate audience who might watch it in real time. They're accessible to anyone across any geo and most languages. They provide reporting and they're durable. And by durable, we don't mean that they're tough. We mean that they live on beyond just the day where it ends. For weeks on end or months, you can continue getting views. You can continue asking questions, following up on difficult questions that were asked and sharing resources.
So something we like to say is that people come for the event, but they stay for the community. So if you're looking for a lasting way to engage, events are a great way to do that.
And from an adoption standpoint, it can be a really valuable tool to get people into Yammer for the first time. I know that at Microsoft, we've been undergoing a huge cultural transformation with Satya, and he's been hosting these monthly Q&As. For many people, that's going to be their first experience going into Yammer, even though much of our organization uses it every day. Depending on your particular team or your particular department, you might not be spending all of your days in Yammer, but if you're looking to spread the reach of that and have a high-touch moment of engagement, hosting a live event can be an introduction to this tool. And then, of course, now that you have folks' ear, you can provide any additional messaging. So a couple of things we use it for at Microsoft, and a couple of things we've definitely heard feedback from customers and how they're using it, is for CEO communication, and this is top-down communication when there's an important moment that's happening, whether it's a campaign kickoff or where there is an issue that needs addressing that has become such a high interest piece of data, or where there is concerns about where the company's going or concerns about what's happening in the company. A CEO can address these or just align and share their vision. You can also use it to host a town hall, and this is more of an open forum Q&A where participants would have the ability to share ideas, innovate, or really just suggest anything that's top of mind for them.
And then talking about special events, like what is a special event? All events are special, or at least most are, but there are really some interesting use cases that we've seen come out of live events, and I'll talk about a couple. So for example, at Microsoft, we're extremely passionate about giving back. Live events are an awesome way to kick something off like a Give campaign, which happens the month of October for us. We've also seen teams take live events kind of across continent to host something called like a 2-day meet. So typically the teams would meet in person for something like this, and this was an opportunity for our MSIT team to kind of share across all of the different groups in that org, and they hosted a on-site at Yammer using live events. And this was like an 18-hour amazing session where everybody was able to collaborate, and they used live events to facilitate that. And then finally, training. So who here has been a new employee at some point? Everybody's hands should go up. I'm testing if you're listening. So onboarding is definitely like a core use case, and obviously we've all had to experience it. This is a great way to host something like an onboarding session for your employees, and it can be recorded and revisited in the future. And also the questions, the comments that come with the live event feed, they live on. All right, so for those of us here, we're probably going to be talking a little bit about production tools, right? So we talked about this broadcast that you get, the real-time and then on-demand video. But let's talk about what do you have available at your disposal today and what's coming, because since you all came this early for this session, we're going to show you a little bit of a teaser. So you have a couple of methods of producing live events. First of all, on the far left, yes. You can see that there are studio-produced events, or we have the tools for studio-produced events. So these are great for high-traffic, professional type of events. They include key features around captions, keyword search, which we're going to demo later. And these are available end-to-end. The setup process is available in Yammer, which is something that we've actually just announced. And we're going to show you what that looks like. You also have the self-produced option. So we've partnered with teams on this. So this is a professional experience, but without that whole production kind of crew, and it's really a little bit more lightweight, so you can self-produce an event. You also get the benefits of a attendee engagement report. It's a little bit simpler, and so for those of you who want a little bit more of a lightweight option, that is also available to you. And then finally, on the far right, you'll see mobile broadcast. This is in development, so you have to get excited about it here. You can't share it with any, just kidding. Like all the people that didn't come to the session, they don't get to know about that.
You may have seen Steve Wynn show it in our Yammer roadmap session just a few days ago.
So I guess it's already out. But this is currently in development, and this has been an ask from leaders to have like a lightweight way to just kind of turn on their phone and broadcast from their mobile device. And so obviously the option there, the benefit is that it is really, really lightweight and easy. And so this is something that's currently in development, and we're going to be piloting soon. All right, so let's talk about how do you get started, because that was a lot of slides. So first of all, basic things that you need. You're going to need Yammer. So the good news is that you're all here, so you're kind of onto that. You're going to only admins can create groups and can create live events, and only connected groups support live events. So those are some of the basic things that you need to know in terms of creating a live event. You need to make sure your group is connected. You need to have an admin creating it. And yeah.
And an important thing to note on this is that live events are not only for the senior leadership team at your organization. Mm-hmm. Any leader of any community is a perfect fit to host a live event, whether it's a community of interest, like a running group or a women's group at an organization, or an internal or mid-level manager or the head of a department. It doesn't just become a tool for the C-suite. Anyone who's a group admin can take advantage of this functionality. So this is what the quick timeline looks like. We're going to talk through this a little bit more, but from a snapshot perspective, a couple weeks out, you want to make sure that you are starting to plan the event, that you're creating the invite and getting it on people's calendars. Within the 2 weeks out window or so, you want to make sure that you identify who are your people, who your team are, and assign responsibilities, who's going to be managing what. The days before, you want to ensure that you're doing a dry run, especially if your leadership team has not used live events in Yammer before. You don't want to be trying this for the first time at such a high visibility moment. We'll go through the final tasks, what's actually happening when the red light is blinking, when the live event is live, and then we'll share some best practices and tips on what do you do post-event, how do you wrap that up, share it back with attendees. So let's look at who your people are. On the left side of this are what we think of as the essential roles. It's good to have more than this, but if you're looking for an easy to create event or low budget, or on the slide a couple slides ago that were more to the right, where it's lower production value, you could get by with 1 or 2 people in theory. We recommend a couple more than that, just so that all the ducks are in a row and that people aren't wearing too many hats. But from a quick study of this, the organizer is the one who schedules and creates the event. They're kind of the point person for the live event. They're assigning people's roles. It's their overall game plan. The producer handles the technical qualities of the event. Many of the people here are technical, but if you don't understand how to connect the video feed into the live event, which you'll learn here today. But if you don't feel comfortable with that, we may recommend bringing in a production team or a technical producer to oversee that. They're going to be the ones pressing start and stop, making sure the right video feed is on the screen. And then the presenter. The presenter is going to be the person who's on camera. This could also be a leader or a sponsor, as you see on the right. But this is the person who's going to be engaging with the camera. And it could be your role as corporate communicators to help them feel comfortable, to help them feel prepared, to help them know what they're getting in for. Our other recommended roles that we use at Microsoft and a lot of our customers have been using and will continue to recommend is having a sponsor, having an executive who can help share that message across the organization to get the butts in the seats for the live event. And then, of course, a Yammer moderator. So this is when the questions and answers are happening during the event. It can be super helpful to have someone online in real time who can either bubble those up to the organizer and the presenter, or even just responding and helping provide links, making sure that we're capturing any learnings. And let's move forward. So now we know who our people are. Let's start planning the live event. First off, you need a topic. What are we going to address? Is this something that is a concern? Is this a kind of a reactive live event to something that's happening at the company? Or is this for a big marketing moment? Or is this just a monthly sync or a quarterly or annual sync? Who's the intended audience? Are we talking to our salespeople? Or are we talking to our new employees? Is this event a net new event? Or is this part of a recurring series? Do you have a dedicated place for this? Or do you need a new one? This really will depend on your own communication strategy. It can be a good idea to create a new place so that people can go here for those questions and answers no matter what time. Otherwise, it can start to get lost in the feed. If maybe the event happened 2 months ago in your communications group, I can go back. It can be difficult to find all of that information. Do you need that producer role, or are you comfortable doing this yourself? And then what else do you need to make this happen? Do you need space? Do you need time on the calendar? And when we're thinking about what goes into a live event, as comms people or marketing people or IT people, of course, you know that it's not just what's on the computer that makes these moments happen. That you need planning, you need an agenda, you might need coffee and donuts in the room to motivate people to come there. Make sure that you have these things accounted for, and then you're ready to start building.
All right, so let's actually create a live event. Woo! I'm going to jump out of this deck. All right. So what you see on the screen here is our leadership connection group. And I'm going to walk through what it would look like for me, who I have my people, so I checked off that part of the checklist. Michael's here, and he's going to help me run this event. We're going to walk through what it looks like to create an event for our CEO, Patty, over at Contoso. So within the leadership connection group, I'm going to scroll down. You can see all the events that have been created in the past, and I'm going to click on this button called Create Live Event. So something that we're actually going to show you is a kind of a recent change to our scheduling flow. So what you'll notice is that today, the very first decision that you make is you choose how do you want to produce your event. So you know how we walk through, you have studio production, self-produced. So if you're looking for that, high traffic, studio produced event, and you're planning to host that type of an event, you would choose an external app or device to produce your event. However, if you want to self-produce, you also have Microsoft Teams as an option. So today, if I were to click on Microsoft Teams, it would actually take me to Teams to kind of walk through that scheduling flow. Something that we are actively working on is bringing that into Yammer as well. So another teaser for you lucky folks who are in the room. And what I'm going to show you is what happens if I choose an external app or device. So I'm going to select Next. And here, I'm going to provide a short and sweet name. So let's talk about how the SPC demo update. Okay, maybe no explanation. You can choose if you want to include exclamations or not. I'm going to add a del. I can provide a description. Join us to hear about how our SPC conference went. All right, and then I'm going to hit schedule. So I wish I could talk through more steps that are taken here, but that is literally what it takes to create a live event in Yammer. And that is actually a recent change that was rolled out to kind of bring that end-to-end experience into Yammer. So before we move on, a couple of things I'm going to call out. So the page you're looking at right now is actually the organizer or producer view. So you'll see that on the lower right-hand side, you have instructions on how you would produce your event. So obviously the first step would be to click Start Setup, and we'll walk through that in a little bit. But this view is the producer view, so you have a couple of actions you can take. Once you've landed on the page, one of the first things you'll want to do to kind of close the loop is to share your event. So what you see on the screen are a couple of options as to how you can share the event. You can copy the link, you can post it in your Yammer group, you can send out a calendar invite to attendees. I mean, it really depends on, as Michael said earlier, who is that audience. And you know, there are so many different ways that you can promote your event. It actually could be kind of exciting in coming up with all the creative methods. So you have Yammer group, you have sending an email, you have adding to calendar. Michael, I know as a marketer you have some additional ideas.
Absolutely. The most exciting thing about this page for me is it's separate from your normal Yammer group page. Of course, it's linked to your Yammer group page, so it's easy to navigate back and forth, but this just serves as a landing page. So before the event, you can invite people to come here, they can precede it with questions, or you can ask questions to work as a prompt for people to begin asking. You can post a poll here. You can still get all the benefits from language translation and everything. But as a marketer, having a landing page for an event can be a dream, because you can have your executives share it out. You can have them touch on it in their weekly syncs. You can end every meeting with a reminder to find out more. You can put it in your newsletters, your distribution lists. You can make an announcement back to the Yammer group. So it's really, really simple to drive people to this page. But you want to make sure when we're driving engagement that there's something here for them when they land there. So my recommended strategy after I get here is to always make the first welcome post. That kind of guides people through the flow and etiquette of how the event is going to work. Of course, when the event is, as a reminder, because sometimes they'll land on the page and think that it's starting now, even if it's not for another 3 or 4 weeks. But when we are trying to drive engagement, remember, be welcoming, be informative. There's never underestimate how creative people will become in doing the wrong thing. So make sure that we have a couple expectations set for them, and that we have questions seeded. And we could even do things like allowing them to vote on a topic of what they want to see by putting a Microsoft Forms document in there and so forth. Cool.
So yeah. Driving engagement.
And this is just a wrap-up slide. Again, you'll have access to all of these, so you don't need to take pictures of these slides. So most of the time that we talk through something, we're also going to give you a nice snapshot so you can take this back to your teams.
Yeah, and just something to call out, we've seen a lot of success, as Michael mentioned, with kind of driving people before the event to ask their questions. And that can kind of also help prepare some of the content, depending on the event, if that's something that you want to support. And it's a really transparent way to get all employees engaged.
So let's look at how to start actually producing it.
All right. So I'm not actually going to set up and produce a live event right now, since we are live with this event, but I just want to walk through it's really 3 steps that you need. So we saw the landing screen. What you do is you click on the Start Setup button. On the right rail, there's an option to copy ingest URLs. You enter it into your encoder. The encoder of your choice, honestly. So what I'm using on the screen is OBS, but there are so many amazing encoder options. Happy to follow up with the group with like a list of recommended ones by Microsoft, but really it's only a couple of clicks. And then as soon as the encoder is connected to your stream, when you go back to the page, there will be you'll see a preview. Nobody sees what you see, it's just you, until you hit Start Streaming, and at that point you'll start streaming your broadcast. So when you do hit Start Streaming, so you can see on the left-hand side, I'm showing the button that you would click for the setup, but when you do start streaming, this is what your attendees and the folks in Yammer are actually going to see. So on the left-hand side, you can see an indicator showing you that, hey, there's an event happening in this group. Yay, exciting. And if they go into the group itself, there is a banner advertising this event. And also there is an indicator on the right rail showing that the event is live, so in all 3 spots. Additionally, we also send push notifications. This is my very inspirational landing page on my phone, so that's kind of the background that you're seeing there. But I got a push notification knowing that an event that I had set live was live. And this is a really awesome way to engage folks across all platforms. Obviously, the folks that will get the push notification are ones that obviously have Yammer on their phone, but that kind of sends the notification that things are happening and it's time to join. All right, so showtime. So now I'm going to walk you through the attendee experience for an event. All right, so I actually logged in as Adele, who is a attendee of one of these events. And so you'll notice when I go to the page, and I'm going into a past event actually, but the experience is quite similar for past events, and also, oh, actually I'm going to go into it one more so I can show you the comments. Okay, so the experience for the recording is actually very similar to the live event. The only difference is that in this case, you're looking at a recording and not the live event. So you'll notice that for the attendee, the instructions on how to produce are obviously not shown, which I think we all want to make sure they're not seeing that, so here's verification. They still have the option to share. They can send it out to their colleagues to join in. You know, we've heard so many amazing use cases of how these events bring people together. We have people scheduling viewing parties, because some of these events are held in person and broadcasted. There are people joining in remotely alone from their computers, so really there are many options for people to join, but as an attendee you can also share. You'll notice if I scroll down, very similar to a regular Yammer feed, you have questions, you have comments. The Q&A is something that we're releasing very shortly, so you can kind of see it on the screen. But Q&A is really a huge part of events, and it really does drive transparency because it allows and enables employees to ask the types of questions. And the best part is that this feed does not go away. It lives with that event, so you can follow up and address these questions later. So something that we've seen our comms team do very successfully is if the question is addressed at a later time, they can follow up and say, hey, look at this timestamp. There is the answer to your question. And that actually drives conversations after the event. Teaser, we'll talk about that a little bit later. And also, if you scroll down, you'll notice that the video docks on the right-hand side. And another really cool feature, two more. One, with the recording, you also get captions. So you can turn captions on and off, and that speaks to the inclusivity that Michael was talking about earlier. And one of my favorite features, drum roll. So you can actually search the transcript to get keywords. And folks can jump to certain bits of the transcript. So something you can do to drive engagement, let's say that there is a topic that was really, really important or discussed over and over during the live event. In the recording, you can highlight that. You can send that out with your recap and encourage people to interact with this. Also, you do get viewership numbers here, so you can see how many people watch the event, and there's additional reporting that is available in stream.
Great. And because it's Yammer, it's super easy to @mention someone, to pull an expert into the discussion, @mention them, and you can use the timestamp that says 8 minutes and 15 seconds. Hey, your question got addressed by our CEO. Check it out. It starts here. If you go into Stream, that Stream also can populate facial recognition for it. So if there's individual speakers that you're looking for during the event, you can click right ahead to where they're presenting. But we have a couple other best practices and tips for when people are hosting these live events. One of them can be ensuring that there's good lighting. But I think the most important one from a managing the event perspective is having a back channel. So this is a channel where either the Yammer moderator is on, or the organizer and producer can be sharing information back and forth, whether it's addressing technical issues that you're having, or just letting them know that they're approaching time, or that there are additional questions coming in, or if there's something that's imperative that they know that they want to address while they're still on camera or before the event ends. So we highly recommend having a back channel. You can also use a hashtag to follow this. If this event ladders up to a bigger campaign across the organization, like new employee onboarding, or HR, or a diversity and inclusion initiative, using that hashtag, it works just the same as it would anywhere else in Yammer. People can click it, search it, find it, and engage with it. You can share links directly to this. As you notice, back on the event page, there was a share link of just that event page in the attendee view. And another big thing is you want to save time for questions, just as we're going to do in this session in a couple minutes. We always recommend having, whether it's 10 minutes or 15 minutes, for actual Q&A. And that could either be dedicated time where you're going to sit down and type out the answers on Yammer, or that you're going to provide those to the presenter, and the presenter can address them while they're still on screen. The other big thing, I know this came up in a couple of our sessions yesterday, and I hear it all the time in our Microsoft events that we run, both internally and externally, is what do you do when inevitably people will ask difficult questions? Our standpoint or our point of view on this is that saying nothing is still saying something. It's imperative to at least acknowledge every post, even if it's not a great response at the time. Thanking them for their feedback or thanking them for sharing that and informing them that we can follow up at a future time, either when we have more information or when we chase down the correct answer, if there is one, or if there is not a correct answer, saying that that's on our radar and that once leadership aligns and comes up with a more complete strategy that will follow up can go a very long way. In events and in comms or in public relations in general, a lot of times what people want is just to know that their concerns are being heard. So ignoring a question can be very, very difficult. We do have Yammer scene count, which just shows how many people have seen a post live during these events. So you can kind of get a pulse for how many people are watching this event. And if there's a difficult question that has 200 views on it, that says something if that's the only question that doesn't get addressed. On the screen, we have a couple of our templated answers. We'll share more in the appendix, but it's something that we always want to touch on because we think that this holds back a lot of people from having live events, that these are moments of unpredictability, and that puts the executive team at risk or exposes them to issues that they don't necessarily want to address, but especially as we think about employee engagement and how we're trying to change organizations for the better. Answering these questions or listening to this feedback builds trust between leadership teams and their workforces. And that is one of the goals of why we are working on live events features and why this is such a priority at Microsoft, is because if leadership doesn't know what's happening, they aren't doing the right thing for their employees. More perfect information leads to more perfect strategy in more situations.
And something I just want to add to that is that at the end of the day, whatever is being discussed is going to be discussed regardless. So it's better that you have a channel, Yammer and live events, to just be able to see it and address it. And that really does go a really long way. Which actually kind of helps wrap this, which is that live events really help organizations co-create culture. So it's in your hands. You can take this feature and really use it to drive that transparency, drive that authenticity, bring together people and also align them around whatever that shared goal, vision, message is. So a couple of ways that you can continue the conversation and continue to drive that engagement after the event are really share the event. The share link works, whether it's the event is about to happen or it's happened. Like, take the event, share it into groups, drive the conversation around the types of topics that were discussed. Continue the conversation, post highlights, mention some of the top topics that came up in Yammer to keep people engaged. And then finally, action with analytics. So live events give you a snapshot into the heartbeat of your organization in real time, and you can use that to drive your strategy moving forward. So what it is that you focus on, the kind of messaging that goes out after the fact, really is something that you have at your disposal and you should use. So we definitely recommend
bubbling
that.
that up to leadership can be a huge thing as well,
Yes.
especially if this is happening in communities of interest that don't have C-suite visibility. Showcasing how many people watched or interacted with this event can help get leadership on board with that and, again, address any concerns that are happening, but also motivate them to host their own live event. Yeah. I know that with Satya's CEO Connection monthly Q&As, we've seen 23,000 views in the first 24 hours of the event. And that can absolutely reinforce the time effort and the energy effort that we put into hosting these live events.
Yeah.
Another way to continue the discussion that I always think is important, I get excited anytime I have someone's undivided attention. I don't know if it's because I'm vain or if I was working in marketing, but when we have someone's ear, that's the moment to land our most important messaging. When we know that people are going to this event, when we know we have executive sponsorship, if we have 3 things to say to someone, what are those 3 things going to be? And one of them should be a call to action to create another moment where we can get their attention again.
All right, question?